Once again, good evening, everybody. Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar was an Indian jurist, economist, social reformer, and political leader who is widely regarded as the architect of the Indian Constitution. His contribution to India's legal and political systems are widely celebrated in India's history and contemporary culture. 14th of April is observed as Bhim Jayanti or Ambedkar Jayanti nationwide to commemorate the memory of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Today, we have gathered here for the same. So, we have a few speakers, staff members, and a PhD student who would like to share their experiences on how Babasaheb Ambedkar influenced their lives. First, let's invite Mrs. Swati Wagmare to share her experience.
सर्वात आधी मी सर्वांचं स्वागत करते. हा सरांनी उपक्रम राबवला आहे त्याबद्दल त्यांचं अभिनंदन करते. माझा बाबासाहेबांचा माझ्या आयुष्यावर प्रभाव याबद्दल बोलण्याआधी मला असं वाटतं की मी पहिल्यांदा माझ्या लहानपणापासून कौटुंबिक पार्श्वभूमीपासून सुरुवात करावी. माझे आजोबा हाडाचे शिक्षक होते, मुख्याध्यापक म्हणून ते रिटायर झाले. माझी आजी ही आंबेडकर चळवळीमध्ये सहभागी होती. प्रकाश आंबेडकरांच्या बरोबर तिने प्रकाश आंबेडकर आणि मीराताई आंबेडकरांबरोबर तिने काम केले. त्यांच्याबरोबरच जयदेव गायकवाड, वसंत साळवे, नीलमताई गोरे ह्यासुद्धा आमच्याकडे सतत त्यांचं येणं जाणं होतं. त्यामुळं सामाजिक आणि राजकीय गोष्टींचा वारसा आम्हाला लहानपणापासूनच आहे. त्यानंतर मला एक प्रकर्षाने सांगावंसं वाटतं. बाबासाहेबांना जी वाचनाची आवड होती ती तर आपल्या सगळ्यांनाच माहीत आहे. तोच आमचा वाचनाचा बाबासाहेबांच्या वाचनाच्या आवडीचा जो भाग आहे तो आमच्या सगळ्यांमध्ये भिनलेला आहे. एकतर शिक्षण घेतलं तरच प्रगती होणार हे आमच्या घरात सगळ्यांनीच ते जपलेलं आहे. त्यामुळं तो वारसा एक आम्ही तसाच चालू ठेवलेला आहे. वाचनाच्या आवडीचं झालं तर आमच्याकडे लहानपणापासून बाबासाहेब आंबेडकर यांच्यावरची, धम्मावरची, याच्या व्यतिरिक्त सामाजिक राजकीय जी कोणती आहेत ती पुस्तकं होती आणि अजूनही मी ती आवड जपलेली आहे. आमच्याकडच्या तर पुस्तकांचं रॅक बघून किंवा कपाट बघून लोक म्हणतात की तुम्ही काय लायब्ररी वगैरेला चालवता की काय. आणि ही आवड मी माझ्या मुलीमध्येही जपण्याचा प्रयत्न केलेला आहे आणि तिलाही ती आहे. म्हणजे आपण सपोज कुठल्या पुस्तक याच्यामध्ये गेलो, पुस्तक प्रदर्शनात किंवा तिच्या शाळेमध्ये जे बुक फेअर्स वगैरे असतात त्यामध्ये ती प्रकर्षाने तिचं पुस्तकं घेते. म्हणजे तिच्या आवडीची पुस्तकं ती घेऊ शकते आणि तो मी जपलेला आहे तिचा. आत्ता सध्या तिचं फक्त फेरी टेल्स आणि याच्यावर असलं तरी ते वाचन तिचं ते पुढं वाढत जाईल याचा मी प्रकर्षाने त्यावर लक्ष देईन. दुसरं, आता बाबासाहेबांबद्दल पुढे आणखीन सांगायचं झालं तर हिंदू कोड बिलबद्दल मी बोलेन की जिथं आधीच्या महिलांबद्दल ज्या हिंदू जाचक अटी किंवा रूढी होत्या त्याच्यातून बाहेर पडण्यासाठी त्यांनी जे हिंदू कोड बिल मांडलं आणि त्या बाबतीत त्यांनी जो लढा दिला की म्हणजे त्यावेळेस तर त्यांना हिंदू स्त्रियांनी संघटनांनीसुद्धा विरोध केलेला होता. पण त्याला न डगमगता न घाबरता त्यांनी तो प्रयत्न केला की ते कोड बिल आणलं जावं, संमत केलं जावं. पण ते कायदा मंत्री होते तरी काय झालं की त्यातली जी अटी होत्या, अटी इन द सेन्स त्यातल्या ज्या मांडण्या होत्या त्यांच्या की एक पत्नीत्व, घटस्फोटाचा अधिकार महिलांना, पोटगीचा अधिकार, वडिलोपार्जित संपत्तीमध्ये वाटणीचा अधिकार, तो अधिकारच ह्या लोकांना मान्य नव्हता. आणि जर ते कोड बिल जसंच्या तसं मान्य झालं असतं तर स्त्री पुरुष समानता येऊन आपला भारत लवकर महासत्ता झाला असता असं सगळ्यांचं मत होतं. म्हणजे सरोजिनी नायडूंसारख्या व्यक्तींनीसुद्धा उपोषणाला बसण्याची त्यावेळेस तयारी दाखवली होती की मी काही हे बिल संमत करू देणार नाही. अशा वेळेस आपल्या तत्वाला जागून आंबेडकरांनी कायदेमंत्रीपदाचा राजीनामा दिला. ह्याचं मला फार महत्त्वाचं वाटतं की त्यांनी फक्त आपल्या समाजापुरता दलित स्त्रियांपुरता विचार केला नव्हता. त्यांनी पूर्ण भारतीय स्त्रियांचा विचार करून त्यांना मुख्य प्रवाहात आणण्यासाठी प्रयत्न केले होते आणि त्या प्रयत्नांना यश आलं नाही. म्हणून आपली तत्वनिष्ठा जागे ठेवून त्यांनी कायदेमंत्रीपदाचा राजीनामा दिला होता. नंतर ते जेव्हा लेबर मंत्री होते तेव्हा त्यांनी कामाचे तास कामाचे जे 12 तास होते ते 8 तासावर आणणे आणि महिलांसाठी म्हटलं तर सर्वात महत्त्वाचा की त्यांनी मॅटर्निटी लिव्ह ॲक्ट आणला की जो खूप महत्त्वाचा होता. पुढची भारतीय पिढी घडवण्यासाठी जे सक्षमीकरण लागतं त्यासाठी आणि ही रजा विथ पेमेंट ही फार गरजेची असते, ती त्यांनी मिळवून दिली. त्याबद्दल त्यांचं तर शतशः आभार. म्हणजे मला म्हणावंसं वाटतं की महात्मा फुल्यांनी स्त्रियांना घरातून शिक्षणासाठी बाहेर आणलं, पण कायदेशीर दृष्ट्या सक्षम आणि साक्षर करण्याचं काम हे बाबासाहेबांनी केलं. म्हणजे ह्यांनी पाया रचला आणि त्यावर ह्यांनी कळस उभा केला. म्हणून आपल्या भारतीय सर्वच महिलांनी त्यांना मानलं पाहिजे. नंतर बाबासाहेबांनी आपल्याला मतदानाचा जो अधिकार दिला आहे त्या अधिकाराबद्दल मला बोलायचं आहे की काय होतं, काही जण ना मतदान करायला जात नाही की काय उपयोग आहे, मी मत दिलं तरी कोण निवडून येणार आहे आणि काय. पण माझं असं म्हणणं आहे की त्यांनी तो अधिकार दिला आहे. आपण मत दिलेला उमेदवार निवडून येणारे नाही येणारे ही कन्सेप्ट आपण का आत्मसात करायची. नाही निवडून आला तरी चालेल, पण त्याला आपण वोट दिल्यानंतर त्या व्यक्तीच्या मागे किती लोक उभी आहेत हे तरी बाकीच्यांना कळतं. म्हणून मतदान देणं गरजेचं मला वाटतं. ऑब्वियसली मत देताना तो व्यक्ती कुठल्या सामाजिक पार्श्वभूमीचा आहे, एज्युकेशनल क्वालिफिकेशन त्याचं काय आहे, या सगळ्या गोष्टींचाही मी उहापोह घेते आणि त्यानुसारच वाटचाल करते. त्यानंतर सर्वात जास्त आणि महत्त्वाचं त्यांच्याबद्दलचं मला म्हणायचं आहे, त्यांनी दिलेला बौद्ध धम्म. बौद्ध धम्मामुळे मला रॅशनल विचार करण्याचा विचार करू शकते मी. म्हणजे तार्किकदृष्ट्या विचार करून मी सगळ्या गोष्टी ठरवते. माझा कुठल्याही अतार्किक गोष्टींवर विश्वास नाही. याचा अर्थ की टू बी व्हेरी फ्रँक की कुठल्याही कर्मकांड मी करायला जात नाही. कुठल्याही कुठली दैवी शक्ती वगैरे आहे ह्या गोष्टीवर माझा स्वतःचा काहीच विश्वास नाही आहे. आणि त्या बौद्ध धम्मामध्ये सुद्धा स्वातंत्र्य, समता आणि बंधुता जो दिलेला आहे तो त्या गोष्टींचं मी पालन नेहमी करते. कुणाबद्दल वाईट चिंतन किंवा कोणाचं वाईट होईल या बाबतीत मी पूर्ण असा कुठलाही विचार माझ्या मनात कधीच येत नाही. यानंतर बोलायचं झालं तर मी असं म्हणेन की आता जी काही सामाजिक परिस्थिती निर्माण झाली आहे त्या सामाजिक स्थित्यंतरामध्ये आपली तत्वनिष्ठा जपणे, जपून ठेवणे, त्याप्रमाणे वागणे हे मला जास्त गरजेचं वाटतं आणि तो पायंडा मी तसाच चालू ठेवावा असं मी वाटचाल तशीच चालू ठेवणार आहे. आता जाता जाता मला फक्त ह्या 2 गोष्टी एकच ओळ म्हणावीशी वाटते. चाहे हो कांटों से भरी राह पर उन पे ही चलेंगे, कुछ सांस पर असर है उनका, मंजिले तो पा ही लेंगे. सरांनी ह्या विषयावर बोलण्यासाठी मला आमंत्रित केलं त्याबद्दल मी त्यांचे आभार मानते आणि थँक्यू.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I invite Mayuri Samant to share her experience.
Good afternoon, everyone. I first of all thank Professor Ranade for inviting me to share my thoughts on Dr. Ambedkar in this today's interaction session where we are commemorating his Ambedkar Jayanti. I will begin with a little kind of a disclaimer. Since it's an informal interaction, the thoughts which I will be presenting might appear like kind of uncooked ideas, but I'm taking this opportunity to share these ideas with you all. Secondly, even if it is kind of an informal interaction and we have titled it as how Babasaheb Ambedkar influenced my life, I would like to approach it a little differently. I will talk about my own engagement with Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, both at political as well as academic level, and we'll also try to sort of note a few of my observations about it. So I will also run a risk of kindly sounding a little bit academic, so I request all of you to bear with me. Um, yeah. I encountered Dr. Ambedkar through what Dr. Sharmila Rege has called as manufactured ignorance. At personal level, for someone like me who belong to upper caste, middle class, urban background, my understanding of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was also limited to a kind of textbook understanding, which limits him to as a father of constitution, or to an extent someone who introduced affirmative action or reservation policy. But it was my involvement in active student politics in my student days. It was Satyashodhak Vidyarthi Sangatna, a Phule Ambedkarite Marxist, the organization which followed this ideology. And it was this political engagement with these organizations through which I encountered Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's political thought, which basically made me realize what Sharmila has coined as this manufactured ignorance. Um, so it is not an accident that I carried this limited understanding of Babasaheb, but this ignorance is literally systematically manufactured in our society. Uh, uh, how we grow up, how we are socialized, it is basically manufactured through various social processes. So it's literally manufactured. So I realized for the first time that as in this realization of this ignorance came to me with this exposure to Ambedkarite thought. Not just that, but it also made me realize about my own caste privilege and also the caste realities in the everyday caste realities which we are ignorant of. Many of us are ignorant of who belong to a certain sort of a background. What I'm trying to say is, I was also carrying a very naive middle class understanding that there is no caste. कुठे दिसते आपल्याला आज caste? Especially when we stay in urban areas, there is a tendency to discard caste realities and sort of say that we have moved across all these, even if there exists caste, it's in rural areas. So I was also carrying this kind of a naive understanding about caste realities, but with this exposure to Ambedkarite thought really made me cognizant about the everyday caste realities, and also most importantly about the privileges, my own caste privileges that I had due to certain my certain socio-economic location. Then secondly, it was again my training in sociology, where also actually I encountered a kind of an manufactured ignorance about Dr. Ambedkar's thought. Even if a subject like sociology, which teaches concepts like caste, class, we never had a very systematic reading or about writings of Dr. Ambedkar in my even graduate or postgraduate teaching. And Sharmila has written extensively about this ignorance at education at higher levels. I think it is same with other social science disciplines also, because I remember what in other day what Dr. Suraj Engde was talking about economics, that there is a very urgent need to re-establish Dr. Ambedkar as an economist, because I'm not aware of that, but I don't know how much Dr. Ambedkar's economic thoughts or his scholarly writings are incorporated in our higher education courses of economics. Recently, of course, with the work of Dalit studies and Dalit intellectuals, now the social science has started incorporating or taking Ambedkar's writing very seriously. But the time when I did my MA, we never had Dr. Ambedkar's writing in our even postgraduate sort of courses. But later, fortunately, due to my association with women's studies at Pune University, and also my close association with Dr. Sharmila Rege, that I was exposed to a very peculiar project, a project which I would like to call a feminist reclamation of Dr. Ambedkar, which allowed me to which allowed me to sort of understand that the caste and gender cannot be looked at differently, and the caste realities and gender realities are intersecting very complexly with each other. And this particular insight which this project had at its root had a very profound impact or influence on me, both personally, politically and academically. So I will briefly talk about this, what was this project and my quick observations about that project. So this political project was basically focusing on bringing forth Dr. Ambedkar's comment or his take on what Uma Chakravarti has called Brahmanical patriarchy. It is quite interesting that Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar never himself used this term Brahmanical patriarchy, but it was later feminists like Uma Chakravarti, the concepts which is developed by the later feminists. These feminists are using the concepts which are developed in today's time to reread Dr. Ambedkar's thought, and they are also drawing a lot of feminist insights from Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's writing. In this particular work, the subtitle of the work itself says it's B.R. Ambedkar's writing on Brahmanical patriarchy. So what Sharmila Rege tried to, and I'm focusing on this work because there are a lot of feminists who are basically trying to do this act of feminist reclaiming of Ambedkar, but it is somehow consolidated in Dr. Rege's last work, and I have also been associated while she was working on this. So I have selected this particular project. But of course, she is not the only one who has done that. So this in this project, what she has done is she, at 3 levels, she tries to sort of understand or draw the feminist insights from Dr. Ambedkar's thought. At his private and personal life, where she says that the feminists have actually wrongly interpreted his personal life, and she tries to draw feminist energies from his personal and private life. Secondly, she is also looking at what she calls as counter-public, as in the Ambedkarite jalsas, or the small booklets or the pamphlets which are getting circulated in the sphere of the political movement. She's also trying to interpret them and tries to draw feminist insights from that. And lastly, of course, Dr. Ambedkar's writing, mainly Caste in India, the rise and fall of Ambedkar, rise and fall of Hindu women, and the very famous debate about Hindu Code Bill, which ma'am also mentioned in her sharing. I think how should one look at this project? According to me, when scholars are using the ideas which are developed in today's time to re-look at or reread a particular ideology, they are basically developing that particular ideology. म्हणजे मला असं म्हणायचं की आजच्या संदर्भातल्या ज्या काही संकल्पना आहेत त्या वापरून जेव्हा एखाद्या विचारधारेकडे आपण बघतो आणि काही वेगळं मांडणी करायचा प्रयत्न करतो त्या विचारधारेची, तेव्हा त्या विचारधारेचा कुठेतरी विकास होत असतो. त्यामुळे मला असं वाटतं की ह्या प्रयोगाकडे एक प्रकारे आंबेडकरवादाचा विकास म्हणून सुद्धा म्हणजे आंबेडकरवादाचा विकास म्हणून बघण्याची गरज आहे. बट द होल क्वेश्चन इज वेदर इट वॉज रिसिव्ड इन दॅट फॅशन or in that light. So my second observation about this project is how it was received. I think it was well received within the progressive political spaces, but I think it was accepted or received as in an additive manner, or as an additional appendix to what we called as mainstream Ambedkarism. म्हणजे जो काही एक मुख्य प्रवाही आंबेडकरवाद आहे त्याला एक जोडलेला एक प्रकारचा आगगाडीचा डबा अशा प्रकारे हा जो काही प्रयोग झाला ज्यातून बाबासाहेबांच्या स्त्रीवादी मांडणी पुढे आणण्याचा जो काही प्रयोग झाला त्याच्याकडे असं खूप काय म्हणता येत एका खूप ओकेजनली किंवा म्हणजे एका ॲडिटिव्ह मॅनरमध्ये बघणं अशा प्रकारचंच त्याकडे बघितलं गेलं. म्हणजे फॉर एक्झाम्पल इफ देर इज अ सेमिनार ऑन विच इज डिस्कसिंग आंबेडकरिझम अँड हिज अँटी कास्ट थॉट्स, आय वुड there is a very least possibility that this kind of project will be discussed. But this is discussed, then where it is discussed? Then it is discussed in some few feminist circles, or on the occasion of 25th December or 8th March, where feminist or Dalit Bahujan feminists are trying to reclaim Ambedkar as a feminist. And why this happens? I think both at the methodological as well as political level, one of the reasons this happens is because both at the methodological as well as political level, this project is a result of critical appraisal of mainstream feminist thought. And it was not done with a conscious mind of re-looking at Ambedkar or डेव्हलपिंग आंबेडकरिझम. म्हणजे आंबेडकरवादाचा विकास करण्यासाठी ह्या प्रयोगाकडे किती जाणीवपूर्वक बघितलंय हा प्रश्न थोडासा मला पडतो. रादर ह्या प्रयोगाकडे स्त्रीवादाची एक चिकित्सा, द फेमिनिस्ट हू हॅव failed to look at the caste realities, the caste blindness of so-called mainstream feminism, which feminists wanted to underline, especially after 80s and especially after post-Mandal scenario. With that political energy, this project was envisaged, rather than looking at it as a what you can say developing or म्हणजे आंबेडकरवादाचा विकास करण्यासाठी ह्या प्रयोगाकडे किती जाणीवपूर्वक बघितलं असं माझा एक प्रश्न आहे. पण मला असं वाटतं की आणि त्याच्यामुळे झालं असं की दिस प्रोजेक्ट हॅड लुक्ड ॲट रॅडिकल फेमिनिस्ट पॉसिबिलिटीज ऑफ आंबेडकरिझम, बट इफ वी वॉन्ट टू एस्टॅब्लिश दिस प्रोजेक्ट ॲज अन इंटरव्हेन्शन इन टू आंबेडकरिझम अँड नॉट वॉन्ट टू लिमिट इट टू जस्ट अ क्रिटिक ऑफ फेमिनिझम, then I think we will also have to explore certain limitations of Ambedkarism with the question of with respect to women's question. म्हणजे मला असं वाटतं की जर ह्या प्रयोगाला जर आंबेडकरवादाचा विकास म्हणून जर आपल्याला आज एस्टॅब्लिश करायचा असेल आणि जो करणं महत्त्वाचं आहे, कारण कोणत्याही विचारधारेचा विकास जर त्या काळातल्या संदर्भानुसार नाही झाला तर ती विचारधारा कुठेतरी थिजते. म्हणजे मला असं वाटतं की जर आपण इफ यू लुक ॲट मार्क्सिझम, various socialist and Marxist feminists drew from Marxism, but they also very strongly criticized Marxism from the feminist insights. So अशा प्रकारचं critical feminist reappraisal जोपर्यंत आंबेडकरवादाचं होत नाही, along with the effort of drawing feminist energies from his work, तोपर्यंत मला असं वाटतं खऱ्या अर्थाने आपण आंबेडकरवादाचा विकासही कुठेतरी होईल असं वाटत नाही. I think, as I said, it's not a very well-researched paper or presentation which I am doing. These are really uncooked ideas which are there in my mind. So it also might sound like a bold statement, but if we fail to do that, then we run a risk of getting into glorification. And I think even Sharmila's work has in some way runs this risk of glorifying the feminist sort of insights which are there in Ambedkar's thought. So I think this critical feminist appraisal, along with drawing from his ideas on feminist on women's question, is really necessary at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your ideas. Last but not the least, we have Sugad Machale, a PhD scholar from our college, to share his ideas on Ambedkar, sir.
First of all, thank you everyone for coming here. And the program that we are having here is quite unique, and I think it is the second year that we are doing this. So I want to thank our Vice Chancellor as well as my friend Akash here, who invited me 3 days ago to speak on this topic. So I'm going to talk how Dr. Ambedkar influenced my life personally, because academically we all know what Ambedkar has done, and as she rightly pointed out, a few days ago Dr. Yangde also mentioned the work of Dr. Ambedkar on economics. I would not be standing here. I belong to a Buddhist family and I come from a very marginalized community. So for someone like me to even be here at Gokhale Institute, which is considered an illustrious institute, which is one of the best in the entire country for economics, is a big thing. When I was growing up, we had this thing in our house, the way Ambedkar used to be taught to us. So we used to have the photos of 3 people, and I used to ask my parents, who are these people? Are they our family members? Are they our relatives? Because it is generally the case that when you go to someone's house, the relatives' photos are there, people who have passed away. But we used to have these 3 photos. So my father used to say that these are do pagdi wala baba hai or ek coat wala baba hai. So I never used to understand who are these people and why do they matter to us? Why are they in our house and why are you adorning their photographs with these garlands and all? And I did not realize who they were. As I slowly started growing up, I realized there is someone called Ambedkar, and because of him, I am right now alive. I am enjoying all of the facilities of life. I am living like a human today. So that was a big revelation for me. But still, Ambedkar was someone foreign to me, because even as an economist, I think all of us will agree that most of his works are quite difficult for people to understand. Even as a PhD scholar right now, I am not at a stage where I am able to comprehend his works. So, Ambedkar was not introduced to me as an academician. What he was introduced to us was as a social worker, as a social reformer, as a revolutionary. And the first introduction that I had with Ambedkar was during my political economics lecture in modern college, doing my BA. There we had the constitution and we were told that Dr. Ambedkar is the forefather of the constitution, that he wrote this great work and that it has created the notion of a country, of India, which could not have existed before. And I was a little bit surprised. Okay, but India, we knew. India is India. We are all Indians, we are all together. How is this such a big thing? And then our professor taught us the Federalist Papers, and in the first few lines of those papers, Hamilton talks about how unification of the states, and these are the American states, the 13 colonies, how this was so difficult and it was so hard that at any moment all of the states could go away on their own and make new countries. So for Ambedkar, to bring all of these states together to create the notion of India was something that I experienced for the first time, and I realized this person is someone that I should admire. We were taught 3 things in our house. Because I come from a Buddhist background, they are very particular about those things. You have to know 3 things, 3 teachings that Dr. Ambedkar did, and my father follows it to the word. First is, we never compromise on education, because Ambedkar said that education is the only thing that will set you free, that will create opportunities for you. In Marathi, I think a few of you might understand Marathi. There is a saying, शिक्षण हे वाघिणीचं दूध आहे, त्याला पिणारा हा गुरगुरल्याशिवाय राहणार नाही. So that is what my father used to tell me. The second thing that he never compromised on was food. We always had the best food in our house. Whatever the occasion, we used to have our own festivals. We do not celebrate Diwali because I'm a Buddhist. We do not celebrate. But 14th April is our Diwali. And Ashoka Vijayadashmi, which a lot of people celebrate as Dasera, is one of our festivals. So the third thing which my father told me, which is great, is that you have to present yourself in a manner where you are looked upon with dignity. So you have to dress properly. You have to, even if you do not have the money, you have to make yourself presentable to the public. So these are the life lessons which I try to inculcate in my own life. As for what I am doing today, I am a PhD student here. I am studying public finance, and I am studying it under Hari sir, who is right now sitting in the audience. One of the important reasons why I chose public economics was Dr. Ambedkar. So in a way, my entire career, which is going to start, is owing to Dr. Ambedkar. I wanted to be a poet when I was doing my graduation. So I had a great interest in English literature, especially the works of John Keats. But I realized when I was reading all of these things that economics was grabbing my attention. And at that point, my father again advised me that Dr. Ambedkar was an economist. I have always seen him as a lawyer. I never knew that he was an economist when I was a kid. And then you should look into economics. It is a good subject. That is what I was told. So when I started looking at economics, I had a revelation that this is a good subject. And when I further realized that Dr. Ambedkar worked a lot in public finance, my resolve to study public economics was all the more increased. And I think the culmination of that is I am standing here today and I am studying public finance at one of the best universities in the entire country. So if it were not for Dr. Ambedkar, I would not have been here today. So I think that is one of the greatest contributions. I think a lot of people here feel the same way. Because in a way, these academic institutions and all kind of life of luxury, so to say, or a life of dignity were not accorded to a lot of people. And Ambedkar's work in particular is extremely important from this facet that today we can live with dignity. We have equality here. Although it may not always be true in practice, we are going in the direction of establishing it, but at least lawfully, we have a right to be human. So Ambedkar taught me to be human. That is the most important thing that I learned from him. And that is how he contributed to my life. That is all I will say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Now, I would like to invite our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Ajit Ranade sir, to speak a few words about
Give a round of applause to Ayesha also. I think you're doing a wonderful job. So my job is simply to invite others to speak. We said we will keep it only from 4 to 5 p.m. respecting everybody's time. And therefore I would like to give this opportunity, whoever wants to speak for a few minutes. I'm very happy to speak about Dr. Ambedkar and about my experience. But I get so many occasions and opportunities to speak, so I don't want to monopolize the time. So if anybody wants to speak for a few minutes, let's give everyone a chance. You can sit there or you can come here. Can I say this? So वेळेचं थोडं भान देऊन प्रत्येकाने जर थोडे थोडे काही संधी दुसऱ्यांना पण दिली तर थँक्यू.
मी प्रशिक्षित PRSमध्ये काम करतो. माझं छोटंसं गाव 50 गाव असं होतं. त्या ठिकाणी फक्त 4थीपर्यंत शाळा होती. दुसऱ्या 5वीला जायचं तर दुसऱ्या गावाला जावं लागायचं आणि मध्ये मध्ये जायला अडचण होती म्हणून मी एका हॉस्टेलला गेलो होतो 5वीला. 5वीला रात्री 10 वाजता काही अधीक्षक लोक आले त्या हॉस्टेलमध्ये आणि त्यांनी सांगितलं की तुम्ही काय खाता. आम्ही भाजी भाकर खातोय असं दाखवलं. त्यावेळेस ते म्हणाले की आम्ही गरीब मुलांसाठी डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकरांनी ही तरतूद केलेली आहे की गरीब मुलांनी शिकावं हॉस्टेलमध्ये आणि चांगले जेवण मिळावं. त्यावेळेस मला कळालं की बाबासाहेबांनी गरीब मुलांसाठी किती सोय केलेली आहे. त्याच्यानंतर मी जवळजवळ 17 वर्ष हॉस्टेलमध्ये राहून शिक्षण घेतलं. पहिले शिक्षण घेतलं BSW बॅचलर ऑफ सोशल वर्क, नंतर मास्टर ऑफ सोशल वर्क आणि पहिली नोकरी मी गोखले इन्स्टिट्यूटमध्ये केली. केवळ इंटरव्ह्यू देऊन इथं नोकरी मिळवणारा मी पहिला असेल. त्याच्यानंतर डॉक्टर चित्रे होते इथं. त्यांना सांगितलं सर इथं रिझर्वेशन नाही कुठलंच, आपण रिझर्वेशन जागा भरायला. सामोपचाराच्या जागा भरल्या गेल्या. त्याच्या 2000च्या नंतर जागा भरल्या गेल्या. त्याच्यानंतर मी म्हटलं सर आपली ती SC/STची मुलं नाही आपण ते भरूया. ते म्हणले फी नाही पडत मुलांना. मी म्हटलं सर समाज कल्याणमधून मी फी घेऊन येतो. ते म्हणजे मुलंही तूच आण, फी तूच घेऊन ये, आम्ही शिकू. ज्यावेळेस मुलं आली समाज कल्याणमध्ये मी गेलो त्या मुलांना स्कॉलरशिप द्या. समाज कल्याण म्हणाला की आम्ही डीम्ड युनिव्हर्सिटी असल्यामुळं स्कॉलरशिप देता येत नाही. मी म्हणलं तिथे शिकवणारा जो स्टाफ आहे त्यांना तुम्ही पगार देता, आता मुलांना देत नाही तुम्ही. अशा अनेक प्रकारे या ज्या छोट्या मोठ्या गोष्टी मी इथं केल्या, केवळ आणि केवळ डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकर म्हणाले होते शिक्षण हे वाघिणीचं दूध आहे आणि जो तो घेईल तो बुलबुल्याशिवाय राहणार नाही. आणि त्या पद्धतीने मी थोडंसं स्मूथली इथं जे काही डेव्हलप झालं केले माझ्या हातात सगळ्यांच्या सहकार्याने. आणि आज रानडे सरांनी जो उपक्रम राबवला आहे तो खूप चांगला उपक्रम आहे. त्यांना मी धन्यवाद देतो. असेच कार्यक्रम त्यांनी आयोजित करावे एवढी मी त्यांना विनंती करतो.
But I want to say a few things which struck me, and I hope you will also react to that. First is this: I believe Gandhi and Ambedkar's influence on modern India is just amazing, and he just died some 67 years ago. There will be people even in Pune who are alive and who have seen Dr. Ambedkar. So it's not that far away back in history. And if you look at the influence, it's just amazing. Maybe 100 years later, somebody will look back and say कि ऐसा भी कोई आदमी थे. But I believe both of them in their own way. आणि इतका अविरोधाभास तरी होता त्यांच्यामध्ये. म्हणजे it's quite. They had Dr. Ambedkar was 22 years younger than Gandhi, because in our society, whenever you're older, you automatically get respect. So that advantage Gandhi had. But I wanted to read something that. So one thing that strikes me is this: कि Gandhi and Ambedkar, very fascinating, real people who were there, and they had a big influence on modern India. Yesterday we heard that, ना तुम्ही होता ना त्याला, की ते टोपलीवरनं, there is a टोपी संडास, की that carrying shit on your head, this is something Gandhi learnt, and he insisted. In fact, there is a story which is perhaps apocryphal, but I don't know. So when Gandhi came to Pune, and he actually wanted to become a member of the Servants of India Society. The Servants of India Society founded Gokhale Institute. तर त्यांना पण मेंबर व्हायचं होतं, तर त्यांना मेंबर करायचं की नाही ही चर्चा झाली. तेव्हा ते सगळे दिग्गज लोक होते, पटवर्धन, द्रविड, गोखले स्वतः असतील की नाही, आय डोंट नो, आय थिंक इट वॉज मे बी पोस्ट गोखले, आय डोंट रिमेंबर. ॲज आय सेड, दिस स्टोरी इज पार्टली ॲपोक्रिफल, बट आय थिंक इट इज ट्रू. तर ते म्हणाले हां गांधी हे अमुक अमुक आहेत. कारण रिमेंबर 1915 साली जेव्हा गांधी आले साऊथ आफ्रिकेमधून, ही वॉज जस्ट मिस्टर गांधी अँड व्हर्च्युअली अननोन इन द कंट्री. माय फेवरेट नंबर देअर, स्टॅटिस्टिकल नंबर इज, गांधी जेव्हा साऊथ आफ्रिकेतून इथे आले, टोटल नोबडी, ही स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम स्क्रॅच. अँड व्हॉट वॉज हिज एज त्यावेळी? You know, 46. What is your age? So there are people who think, अरे 30 बहुत उशीर झाला. 46 को भी you can start from scratch and become Gandhi. Anyway, so ते membership करता apply केलं. तो they said की कोण आहे गांधी? क्या आहे? What is his credentials? तो त्याला बोललो मीटिंगला, let him present himself. नाही येत ते. कुठे गेले? ते लॅट्रिन साफ करतायत. अरे बाबा असा विक्षिप्त माणूस आहे का? नको बुवा आपल्याला. ये कोई और आदमी लगता है, उसके दिमाग में कुछ और कीड़ा है, तो उसको मेंबर नहीं किया गया. So Mr. Gandhi was not made a member of the Servants of India Society. So this is the kind of character he was. But I wanted to read out one thing about the second thing which struck me. So about Dr. Ambedkar, what you said. Actually, he has 2 PhDs. See, most of our leaders went to England, whether it was from Jawaharlal Nehru or Savarkar, Gandhi, but Ambedkar is one of the very few people who actually went to America. In fact, his PhD is from America, Columbia. So the influence of America, John Dewey, वगैरह, is very distinct. So I think it's very special to my mind. And he got 2 PhDs, both of them in economics. But as you said, most people are not aware about the economics contribution of Ambedkar. It's fantastic. Because the last paper he wrote in economics, and he has some written scholarly treatises, as you know, was 1921, 22. And one of the famous papers whose 100th anniversary we celebrate is the question of the dollar standard. In those days, in the world, all currencies were based on how much gold a country had. म्हणजे तो नोटा छापायच्या करन्सीच्या तर you had to take stock of. So that implication on currency, on global currency, was the paper which he wrote, which subsequently, by the way, led to the idea behind the SDR, Standard Drawing Rights of the IMF. IMF was founded in 1944. हा पेपर 1921 मध्ये लिहिलेला आहे. पण आता वेळ नाही आपल्याला. But what I find remarkable is that he stopped writing on economics topics after 22. Because उन्हें सर ये साला economics time pass है. The real revolution is political economy or sociology. And today, as you know, most people know him either as the father of the constitution or a social reformer. But we completely forget that actually by training, he was a very hardcore and substantial contributor to the field of economics. So I'm happy that you're doing public finance, but I mean, I don't want to badmouth economics, but I just want to first remark is that he finally realized that real action happens in the sphere of political economy, and therefore he actually did not write any economic stuff. आणि मला वाटतं त्यांनी भाषण पण दिलं नाही economics after 22. Okay. The other thing I want to mention is the following, which is a little tidbit story. I think some of you might know it. So I'll just read it out for you. So it'll take 2-3 minutes. Did you know that, we say Dr. Ambedkar is the father of India's constitution. Technically that is not correct because he was the chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution of India. And that Constitution of India was written or drafted collectively by some 250 people over 3 years. That thing was called the Constituent Assembly. And the Constituent Assembly invited proposals कि आप लोग अपना अपना proposal दीजिए. Constituent Assembly invited कि क्या Constitution होना चाहिए इंडिया का. So ते त्यांनी सगळ्यांच्याकडनं ते invite केलं. One of the, so different people submitted different drafts. One of the groups which submitted a constitution for India is called Hindu Mahasabha. Have you heard of Hindu Mahasabha? Yes. आणि त्याचं जे original draft आहे, the Constituent Assembly invited and entertained and received सगळ्यांचं घेतलं, मग त्यांचं सिंथेसाइज केलं, काही लोकांचं रिजेक्ट केलं, डिबेट झाले. पण हिंदू महासभेने जे म्हणजे सावरकरांची हिंदू महासभा त्यांनी जे सबमिट केलं ड्राफ्ट, त्याची एकही प्रत जगात नाही, भारतात नाही आहे, ओरिजिनल कॉपी. Only one copy is there in India. You know where it is? It's in our library. So that's quite a remarkable thing. The story I want to read is that, did you know that he almost did not make it to the Constituent Assembly? That's because the major political parties, that is chiefly the Congress party and its senior leaders, did not want him to be elected. Because you had to be first elected to the provincial council. ज्याला आपण आता विधानसभा म्हणतो. त्या विधानसभामधले काही प्रतिनिधी Constituent Assembly. So first you have to win election to become a member of the provincial council. And Congress party was firmly against him. In fact, Ambedkar himself said in his own words on May 21, 1922, we are talking about 46, huh? In 1922, just after he wrote his last economics paper, he said, I am the most hated man in Hindu India. I am denounced as a traitor, anti-national, branded as the greatest enemy of the country. This is in his own words. Because of his insistence that the depressed classes, we didn't call them Dalits then. The word Dalit came much later. The depressed classes, of his insistence that they should be given a separate electorate. तुम्ही मुसलमान लोकांना देताय मग ह्यांना का नाही? असा त्यांचा आग्रह होता. You know all that story. And just like Muslims, Sikhs or Christians, but Mahatma Gandhi was, by then he had become Mahatma. आता तो विषय वेगळा आहे. 22. In fact, by the way, Romain Rolani, the Nobel Prize winner for literature, French author, he's written a book on Gandhi. So Gandhi has already become known by the mid-20s. So he was against it, and all this animosity against Ambedkar, especially from the senior political class, came to the fore during the elections of various provincial legislatures. म्हणजे ज्याला आपण विधानसभा म्हणतो. July 1946. See, they had to be elected and then you become the Constituent Assembly. तर त्यामुळे काय झालं की Ambedkar was actively sought to be excluded from the or defeated in the provincial elections by senior leaders from the Congress party. So he was not even able to make it to the Constituent Assembly from his own native Maharashtra. महाराष्ट्रातनं पण त्यांना कोणी उभं करायला म्हणजे चान्सच नव्हता. So this is the real story I want to tell you. It was thanks to Mr. Jogendranath Mandal. आपण हल्ली मंडल कमिशन म्हणतो, we refer to the other Mandal, but this is the more important Mandal. Jogendranath Mandal from Ambedkar, he ensured that Mr. Ambedkar should make it to the assembly from the province of Bengal. And Mandal was then the head of the Scheduled Caste Federation of Bengal, and Scheduled Caste Federation of All India was the president was of course Dr. Ambedkar. And he said, you come to Bengal, तुम्ही इकडे उमेदवार व्हा, पण तुम्हाला निवडून कोण देणार? How do I ensure that you will win the election? You know who gave support? Huh? Yes, but who, as a political base, कोणी त्यांनी दिला? So the base came from not only the depressed classes in Bengal, but from the Muslim League. It was the Muslim League which supported the candidacy of Ambedkar, and thanks to them, he actually got elected to the Bengal Provincial Council, and from there to the Constituent Assembly. And he, by the way, Jogendranath Mandal decided after partition to migrate to Pakistan. He became the Labour Minister of Pakistan under Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan. That's a different story. And गम्मत अशी है कि Ambedkar, of course, was nominated from East Bengal, because remember, it was East Bengal. So he was nominated to the Constituent Assembly from East Bengal. And after partition, people who were elected from East Bengal were part of Pakistan's Constituent Assembly. So Ambedkar is out again, second time out, right? So वो वापस कैसे आ गए? ये आपको मालूम है? Correct. By then what happened is, then this guy is really, अभी कांग्रेस को भी मानना पड़ा, ये कोई great आदमी है, इसको इतना so by then there was the bandwagon effect, and by then, I mean, of course, the Congress party supported him, and by then.
He said कि मैं तो पूरे ये दरवाजे और खिड़कियां ये पार्लियामेंट के बंद करके आया हूँ, ये कहाँ से वापस आ गया, were the words which were uttered by Patel at that time. So it was quite difficult for Dr. Ambedkar to even approach inside the Constituent Assembly, as the professor said, to present his ideas. So at every point it was quite difficult. And since you mentioned the drafting committee, it would be wonderful to know that most of the people who were in the drafting committee, they did not work for more than 3 months. So Dr. Ambedkar was by his one sum, he was doing the entire work for the 3 years. And since you mentioned Gandhi, I think Dr. Gandhi and Dr. Ambedkar and Gandhi are two extremely diametrically opposed people, as much opposed as they can be. So much so that after Gandhi died, it might be controversial to say here, but what Dr. Ambedkar said was Mahatma Gela Manus Rahila. That was the kind of, because Gandhi, even though he was a great person, there is a duality in the literature that Gandhi presents in his own paper, which is in his own language, and the one that he used to write in English. So the views, I think, there is these days a bit of attempt to amalgamate the ideas of the two people, but they are quite diametrically opposed. That is what I'd like to say.
I'm going to conclude, but we don't want to reduce this to a Gandhi versus Ambedkar debate. But those of you who are interested, just go to YouTube and just Google the search for Ambedkar BBC. 1950, he died in 1956, 6th of December. That's Varshi, a few months before that, there was an actually interview. I think the audio and video both is there, but definitely audio quality is good. And it's a fantastic, fantastic piece. Please, 55, okay. So it's a fantastic piece because, of course, he talks about his view on Gandhi. But really what struck me is a very constitutional language, very parliamentary language. No 4-letter words, although there was a lot of animosity. But as you said, this is a very fascinating part of Indian history. I think it's modern history. Two were people who I think are giants. By the way, Mr. Ambedkar himself gave a talk in Gokhale Institute, 1939, 41. 39. On the death anniversary or birth anniversary of and the talk was on Ranade, Gandhi and Jinnah. That is the one I mean. So, correct, but this talk on Gandhi, Jinnah and Ranade, that became the book. So that also he gave here. You know, their lives were intertwined. So you know, somehow or the other their lives were intertwined, and we don't want to reduce it to a, you know. But that's the greatness of India, that you know you had such totally opposite, like you said, एक कोट टाय घालणारा दुसरा लंगोट घालणारा आणि incidentally on just last point is electoral politics. So India became independent in 1947. We became a proper republic in 1950, and until then we had of course prime minister. It was not an elected cabinet. Fantastic again that the cabinet consisted of people from all parties. Fiercely people's sworn enemies of Nehru, Syama Prasad Mukherjee, then Dr. Ambedkar, नंतर कोण बरं आपले ते स्वतंत्र पार्टीचे फाउंडर राजगोपालचारी. So many people who were actually ideologically opposed to Nehru, he invited them. It's like Modi calling Nandan Nilekani to his cabinet. Anyway, पण ते नाही म्हणायचं होतं मला की 1952 मध्ये फर्स्ट इलेक्शन happened, proper elections happened, and the great Mr. Ambedkar, by then he was quite well known, he stood from Mumbai. He did not win. He did not come first. He did not come second. He did not come third. He came fourth in that election. ठीक है, बाय इलेक्शंस करते हैं, इनको जिताते हैं, बाय इलेक्शन मध्ये पण हरले. Finally, he had to be smuggled through the Rajya Sabha. But of course, a few years later he died. So those of you who think electoral victory is supreme, please remember that the great Dr. Ambedkar lost repeatedly in popular elections. I'm not going to mention the name of Dr. Manmohan Singh, Pante Rande. So lots to share, as I said, but I'm very happy that we had this session today. And it was very important that we say something with that. So all these, my thoughts are also completely unprepared, like Mayuri said or you said, but I think it's been a great session. So I'll hand it back to Ayesha then to wind up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us with your words. Now I cordially invite Rahul, sir, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you everyone for being here. I especially thank RVC sir for giving time and being with us. I also thank Bansude sir and all the faculty members who are present today here. It was really a great session. We'll be improving it next year, and we'll try to, incorporate his thoughts on different areas. So again, thank you so much, and all of you came here and shared this session with us. Thank you so much. Good day.